Hermiston City Council and Urban Renewal Agency to order for August 9th, 2020. If you're just now joining us, we had the council and administration had a tour of Columbia Basin extracting. Usually when we do a work session, we eat our lunch or dinner during that work session, so we had to kind of rush back here, and so you see some of the councilors finishing up their dinner. Please, we do have a declaration of a quorum. 2 members absent, Councilor Peterson and Councilor Duran are excused. Please join me in a flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you. Got a couple special guests with us this evening. We're going to start out with the Hermes School District. I see Jake Bacon back there. Welcome. Mr. Bacon, how are you?
All right, good evening. Thank you for having us up. Well, believe it or not, August is here and in-service is right around the corner. So the big shift right now for the district is getting ready for in-service and preparing to welcome teachers back. And before I came to the meeting tonight, I reflected back on the HR update that I sent out to staff at the same time last year and the one that I've prepared for this year. And the cool thing about it is we're talking about kids in school 5 days a week. And that is really, really cool. So we're excited about that, and that's the big emphasis that we have right now is we've got our kids coming back full time, and that's great for everyone. With that, we have some new guidance that has been provided by Governor Brown regarding masks, and it will take some explaining, and so getting that information out to folks is going to be a priority for us. The board is going over that this evening. And basically what the mask mandate, if you haven't read it already, comes down with it in a K-12 setting, indoors, during school hours, masks are required. It is no longer local control or decision-making regarding this. Outside of that, those parameters, it is local control. And so that was a big shift where everything leading up to the end of this July was local control, and that's been a shift. So we're going to be working to just get that information out to folks because it is in place in the OARs. It's not something that we are able to negotiate or say we will or will not comply with. And along with that, they have the OHA updated information on Friday as far as how quarantines could impact schools. Students that are wearing masks properly and consistently throughout the school day, if they are exposed to another student with a positive COVID case, for example, sitting 3 to 6 feet away from another student, they are exempt from quarantine because of the mask. Adults do not meet that same exemption, nor will a student meet that exemption if the adult is positive. So if I am positive with COVID, I'm at school, student that I'm working with, I'm closer than 6 feet to that student. For any period of time, we both are wearing masks, the student is still in jeopardy or at risk for being quarantined during that time. And so that's the new OHA information that came out just this last Friday. Any questions on that? Because we've been fielding a few.
Yeah, I got a question. So if the adult in the room is not exempt, so you have 25 kids in your classroom and one kid comes down with it, you're going to lose a teacher.
Potentially, yes.
How long can you do that before you don't have school?
Well, if we didn't have some precautions in place, it wouldn't last very long. But what we'll be communicating with staff, as long as they stay 6 feet or further away from students, and they just make sure that they're not there any longer, it's impossible to be maintained 6 feet 100% of the day in a school. And so just making sure they're aware of trying to keep that spacing so it's not accumulative over that 15 minutes in a
Still
day.
apply if they're vaccinated?
Vaccinated is the exception, that if an individual is vaccinated, they will not be required to quarantine.
Good. Thank you.
What's the quarantine period?
Quarantine period depends on exposure or if you have symptoms. So Umatilla County Health has maintained consistency with requiring a 14-day quarantine period if exposed to a positive COVID case and not being vaccinated. If you develop symptoms, it's 10 days from the onset of symptoms. So if I develop symptoms this evening, my 10-day count starts tomorrow, and I'll go 10 days. I'll finish that 10th day. The 11th day, I'm able to return as normal, providing my symptoms are improving and 24 hours free without fever.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Construction update. And just finishing up on this, there was a lot of concern that the requirements that came out just recently were for the entire school year because it said these will begin at the start of the 21-22 school year, and that's not the case. The goal is to be able to return local control from the governor's office, and that's what she has said. And then following up with, they will be reviewing every month, whether or not they're going to maintain with the current rules.
Jake, how about outside the school day?
So outside the school day, it is optional. So it is individual choice. And you may see some confusing sights. So as soon as the students go outside, they are not required to wear masks. If they're at an athletic event, they are not required to wear masks. Received a lot of questions on, well, why in the world, what is the reasoning behind that? The reasoning that we have received is that it is state law that students are in session in school, so compulsory attendance law requires students to be at school. There's nothing requiring students to be at an athletic event or at a club event or out into the community. Where students don't have a choice and students that are under 12 years of age are not able to get the vaccine at this time, the governor's office felt that it was necessary to go K-12 setting indoors during school hours. And so that was the reasoning behind it that we've received.
So I thought I read Oregonian or something that fall indoor sports were going to have to wear masks. That's not accurate?
So we have the luxury, I guess, of having to navigate two different systems for athletic and OSAA. Depends on how Larry speaks to it much better than I do. Right now, we are working with WIA on what our restrictions will be and what we'll have to follow. WIA right now is debating on whether or not they'll require weekly testing for unvaccinated students.
Okay. Thank you.
Construction update, moving along well. Rocky Heights, we've got the foundation footprint is down. These are heading in, hopefully to be finished up by September. And then at Loma Vista, leveling and grading has begun, and they're getting ready to prepare to put utilities in. So still on course, a little early in the game, but still on course for the fall of 22. And then the academic focus, just really cool. I wanted to share out that over our summer programs, the district was able to support over 1,200 students through the summer programs. And I just felt that was something that is just to say thank you to our teachers who stepped up and did it. We had more staff involved in summer program than we have ever had since anyone can remember that I've spoke with. So we had over 100 staff participating and helping, trying to make it all work. So pretty exciting. We're hoping to have some of that next year. Not to that, we won't to provide it to that extreme, but
You know, I received a lot of positive feedback about that too, that it was programs that weren't necessarily rigorous or academic geared. It was more to engage students in the process of learning. Mm-hmm. And a lot of parents and kids, I think, appreciated that perspective this summer.
Well, and it was a benefit to be able to partner with the city and other organizations too, like, you know, the swim opportunities for students and the sports camps for students, and then getting out on the field trips. So we had more field trips this summer than we've had in a long time. So, I mean, it was a good collaborative effort, community-wide. Last week or not, or last comment, our HR manager at the district. Basically, she is amazing. She earned the state recognition for the American Association of School Personnel Administrators state award this last year, and we just received information here in July that she's now going to be honored as the national recipient this year. And so we were able to have a district employee be recognized nationally, and we're pretty excited about that and the work that she did. We're pretty fortunate to have her around. So,
Well, pass along the congratulations.
okay, we'll do.
Is that, you're done?
That's it.
All right. Well, we're ready to get kids back in the classroom and excited that they're actually going to go to in-person education this year, even if it is with masks. Did the governor come out with, you know, once we meet a certain criteria or a timeline, didn't give any suggestions about how long this would last or anything like that?
No, the only thing she's put out is that they'll reflect on county vaccination rates and rate of spread within each county. So however that plays out by county will most likely be the timeline.
I think, you know, one of the other things that I read this last week, schools are getting beat up pretty bad about the governor recently signing the students don't have to pass with reading, writing, or arithmetic skills to graduate anymore, which I think most people would be pretty frustrated with. So I'm sure you guys are trying to work on that and address that and make sure our students are still passing with high rigor and the skill set that'll make them successful students when they get out into the real world.
And that's it. So when that statement is made, basically it's saying the smarter balance. So that's one of the final requirements for seniors to pass. Once they pass that and all their classes, they've earned the credits, they're good to go. If they do not, you have another process that you go through providing a work sample for that student. And what we've done in Hermiston is as sophomores, we begin working on their work samples at that point. So in case, if a student does not pass the smarter balance, have the work sample there to back it up. That process we don't plan on throwing away. We work towards those skills, and each district has the ability to have varying graduation requirements. So even by her making that statement and having it, it truthfully isn't going to impact a whole lot on graduation rates. I think we'll see a lot of the same progress.
Great. Questions, counselors? Other questions? No? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Bacon.
Thank you.
Do we have another microphone we could put up there? That one keeps cutting in and out. Yeah. Let's try a different one, just in case. All right. Thank you. All right, up next, we have Community Counseling Solutions. I see Kimberly Lindsay there. Welcome. Yeah, you're here to talk about new addition of mental health in our community.
Is this working?
Yes?
Yes. So, yeah, I just wanted to introduce myself and say thank you. I mean, I know that you all, some of you were not involved, or I don't know that any were involved in the RFP, but Community Counseling Solutions was selected to be the new mental health and addictions provider for Umatilla County. There's a long history on what's led up to that. Some of you may have followed that. It was a difficult and thoughtful decision that we made when we decided to respond. We're currently the Community Mental Health Program in Morrow, Wheeler, Gillum, and Grant. But looking at the totality of the situation, the thin border that we already share with Umatilla County, or between Umatilla and Morrow County, we thought that we might be able to come in and provide some support to listen to what's going on in Umatilla County and potentially make some good changes. That said, I want to let you know that we're not coming in with all the answers. There's a lot of things that are going well, but clearly some things that can be improved. So I just want to share a little bit about Community Counseling Solutions. The organization has been around since the 1960s. That's when Kennedy signed the Community Mental Health Act, and community mental health came into play. We went not-for-profit. We separated from Morrow County in 2007. Our board of directors, there's 11 members of the board, and they're comprised of individuals from Morrow, Wheeler, Gillum, Grant, and soon to be Umatilla County. We provide a variety of services, not just mental health and addictions. So we operate a statewide warm line that's similar to a hotline, but you don't need to be in crisis. And there's an important difference between that. When folks are in crisis and they're accessing the emergency room, they're contacting law enforcement, there's a lot of cost involved in that. The warm line is focused upon preventative, and it happens before the crisis occurs. Juniper Ridge is a secure residential treatment facility that we operate in John Day. We have another secure residential treatment facility in Heppner. We operate the Foster Grandparent Senior Companion Program for all of Umatilla, Morrow, really all of the counties in Eastern Oregon. John Brenny, if any of you met him, he was on the Pendleton City Council. He headed that up for a long time. Developmental Disabilities, we provide those 4 programs for Morrow, Wheeler, Gillum, and Grant. We operate the Grant County Health Department. I said yes to that in 2012. That was before COVID. Anyways, so that's been interesting to be the public health administrator. And then relevant to Umatilla County, we provide the mental health and addiction services for cradle to grave, from cradle to grave in those counties, and soon to be in Umatilla County. Our mission is providing dynamic, progressive, and diverse supports to support the communities that we serve. Importantly, we are about serving. We operate under the philosophy of servant leadership. We're focused on the relationships and the quality of the service, not the quantity, although that is important. And we believe in the inherent value of every individual, regardless of their background or what's happened in their life. So if you think of society like a chain, the society is only as strong as its weakest link. And it's our call to make the weakest link stronger, and recognizing that the most vulnerable are the young, the old, and the disabled. So we feel that we have a call to duty to work with the community, to work with you, to work with the schools, to work with law enforcement, to make our community stronger and safer. I want to give a shout out to Chief Edmondson. Had a really nice visit with him last week. Looking forward to the partnership. That's not to say that we're perfect. We don't have warts, because we do. We will make mistakes. We ask, though, over this next year that you might give us a little bit of grace as we kind of fumble along and we have some foibles. But my promise to you, my grandma always said, make very few promises, but keep every promise that you make, is that we will do a good job, and you will see improvements in the county. It might not be in fact, it will not be overnight, but in the next couple of years, you're going to see some changes. I could talk a lot. I'm not known for being quiet. I'm definitely not known for being shy. I go into Dr. Drotzman sometimes. I talk to him about his lie test, like, can you see this? Can you see that? Can you see this? Can you see that? I could talk to him forever. He's probably ready. Like, okay, thank God we're done. So if you had any questions, I'd be happy to field any. And I'd also like to know how often, if ever again, you'd like to hear from me. I'm happy to check in periodically with you to listen and hear what's going on, what's working, it isn't working. I already spoke with Chief Edmiston about meeting with him regularly. I live about 35 minutes from here. There's fast food here. So, I just had some great hibachi. The yum sauce, by the way.
Yum.
That's what it's about.
Yeah, I think we probably have some questions. You know, currently, the counties that you serve, what is their population in total?
20,000, roughly.
And Umatillas?
75, 80?
80. Yeah, so, you know, how are you going to get to the point? I mean, that's 4 times the population, probably 4 times the problems, I would imagine. How do you grow to that point? What's your plan?
That's a good question, Mayor. So right now, Community Counseling Solutions has about 210 employees. We will be adding 65 employees, 65 to 70. So I think it's important to make that distinction that while while one employer claimed that we'll be tripling our number of employees, that's not the case. And that has to do with having the diverse programs across the state. We've just, you know, when we saw a gap, we addressed it, and not that we wanted to do everything that I said, just that we did. So adding 65 to 70 employees is not insignificant. I don't want to minimize that, but I just want to state that we're not tripling our employer base or employee base. However, you know, I think that for me, when I think about Umatilla County, it's not necessarily the size, it's the diversity of the county. The 4 counties that we serve, you know, they're diverse, certainly Morrow County a little bit more than others, but you go from counties or from a city, let's say the largest city is John Day with around 3,000 to 200. And that's it, you know, that's the largest. Whereas in Umatilla County, you have cities that are 25,000 down to towns that are 200. So how do you balance those services? How do you make sure that somebody that lives in Helix or somebody that lives in Pilot Rock has the same access despite the geography? I think that we've done a decent job with that, but you know, what's important is 2 years from now, if I'm up here visiting with you, what do you think about what we've done? You know, there's employees that are in place currently with Lifeways and they want to come to work for CCS. So that's good, and we're happy about that. There is an exodus in the behavioral health workforce, so it's not like we've got a whole bunch of people that are going to just come in and backfill. There's some training or maybe some retraining that we need to do. There's a lot of things that are working well. There are some things that are not working well, and those are the areas that are going to get our attention. And as I conveyed with Chief Edmiston, relationships with law enforcement, addressing the acute care, the civil commitment issue, the first responder issue, people that are showing up in the emergency rooms. That's the stuff that's been on the front page of the paper in Umatilla County, and that's where I'll be focusing my attention. So I don't know, Mayor, if it quite addressed your question. The scaling up is one thing. The employees are already there. It's more looking at the balance of the service, the fairness in the service, and addressing the areas that aren't working so well.
Well, I appreciate your honesty. You know, your colleagues think very highly of you. You're spoken very well of as a leader, and we're looking forward to that relationship, including our public safety department and our chief's relationship, as well as relationships with our partners within the community. We have some concerns that we've felt for a long time that haven't been serviced well, and they continue to become a larger growing problem for us. And so we're looking for a continued or a renewed emphasis on mental health within our community and access to those services for all of those people, because I would agree with you that the least among us need our most care, and we need to build those people up the best we can, and having the right provider in place to help with that, I think, is extremely important. So I'm super excited to have you guys join us and join our community and our county. So
Thank you.
thank you for that.
Thank you.
How about other questions from the council or comments? Yeah, Roy.
Thank you for being here. I think it's also really important to say that you're one of the first CEOs, or at least the first CEO since I've been here, from the mental health field, at least in our area, to come and at least address the problem. So really appreciate it, and the offer to continue to come back. My question is, now that we're undertaking this partnership, do you have the residential facilities in the area? And if not, I guess, what is the plan moving forward to address that?
How much time do I have tonight?
Much as you need.
The relationship, it's a little bit like speed dating, isn't it? Sorry, I kind of think like that in my head. Well, I might ask Chief Edmondson to chime in here. The state did release some additional funding for what I'll call regular residential treatment. And I'm going to try to stay away from jargon here or acronyms, but there's residential treatment facilities and secure residential treatment facilities. They address the issue of the back end, what I'll call the back end of the state hospital. So we know that there's no room at the end, meaning that the state hospital is not taking people on a civil commitment. You have to have committed a crime due to insanity, what we call PSRB, or people unable to aid and assist. So once they get to the state hospital, they're ready to be discharged. They could go to a residential treatment facility. Is there enough of those? No. That's why the state hospital there's such a logjam there. So yes, we can use more of those. There is some funding that the legislature approved that will address that to a small degree. We have yet to see whether or not that'll be released to the communities in the form of RFPs, or if those will be state-ran facilities similar to what they did over at Junction City with the cottages. I'd be curious to hear what Hermiston's thoughts are on that, about RTFs and SRTFs in the community. Sometimes you hear that, I don't want that in my backyard. There's nice opportunities, though, when you have those in your backyard, because people from Hermiston need that level of care. And when they're not able to receive it in their home county, they're getting it generally on the other side of the state. And if we're talking about reunification and reintegration, because we want them to come back home, and we don't have anything for them to come back home to, what does that say? And what are we going to do about that? So that's part of the issue. Does that make sense? I'd also like to take the time, though, or an opportunity to talk about the front end of the issue. Do I have a couple more minutes?
Absolutely. I think to Councilor Barone's point, though, is we do have some existing facilities within our county. Are you going to operate and have ownership of those?
Well, that's the front end of the issue.
Okay, that's the front end. All right.
I'm going to try to handle that tactfully. So the short answer is no. Lifeways has indicated that they're going to continue to operate both McNary, and you might be familiar with where that is. They did change the use of that to being exclusively individuals that are under the jurisdiction of the Psychiatric Security Review Board. Whereas in the past, they had 4 or 5 beds set aside for people who needed respite or needed a short-term residential stay. So all those beds now are occupied with what we call PSRB individuals. Aspen Springs was built to be a hospital facility to provide acute care. Before Aspen Springs was built, we had Juniper Ridge, and Juniper Ridge was in John Day. You know, it's the center of the universe for Eastern Oregon, but it's not necessarily the center of everything. But it's in the middle, technically. And we built Juniper Ridge to be a Class 1 facility. Class 1, you can provide seclusion and restraints. It is an acute care facility. And it was great, in my opinion. I'm kind of biased because I thought of it and we ran it. So it was the first answer to a long-standing issue that followed upon the closure of Blue Mountain Recovery Center. It was 10 beds, so people that were in need of acute care could access services there. It took a while for Aspen Springs to get up and running. Juniper Ridge had been running for years and years, and I always kind of scratched my head on why Aspen Springs was built. Like, don't get me wrong, it's not that I didn't think something in Umatilla wasn't helpful, but there was many years when nothing happened in Umatilla, so I didn't provide services here. I had the 4 counties that I operated in, and Grant County was willing to do it. So when you go from 10 beds, though, if your average census in acute care is about 6, and you build for 10 beds, and then you have another 16 beds come online, you go from 10 to 26. You're saturating your market, and somebody's going to go out of business. And we saw the census at Juniper Ridge plummet. So we closed Juniper Ridge to acute care in the fall of last year, and we just turned it into a regular, secure residential treatment facility. So you can imagine our shock when Aspen Springs closed to acute care, because now our region goes from 10 to 26 to 0. Lifeways will continue to operate Aspen Springs. They've been very clear about that. They're going to provide respite services there, which is an important part of the continuum in Umatilla County, and we're grateful for that. What we need is acute care, and that's the front end of the system. Does that answer your question, Councilor Barron?
Yes. Can I ask a follow-up?
Yeah. When am I going to build acute care?
I had questions. I guess since it's the county contract now, is there going to be any drug court services, and is there going to be any facilities for outpatient services?
So you currently do have drug court in Umatilla County, and CCS is the contracted provider for treatment. So I'm sorry that if you didn't know that, it makes me think, well, maybe we could do a better job of promoting that. It's a joint partnership between Community Corrections, Community Counseling Solutions, and Umatilla County Circuit Court. It can take up to 30. However, there are only about 9 active. Some of that has to do with Measure 110. I'm sure you've heard a lot about that, but decriminalizing that reduces the number of people that are eligible for that program. Are we going to have offices here? The county has been excellent to work with. So the current addictions office of the Umatilla County Human Services, you'll see signs go up here in the next couple of weeks where those are going to change from UCHS to Community Counseling Solutions. We're working with the existing community mental health program, Lifeways, right now, to determine whether or not we will be taking over their leases or potentially purchasing buildings from them. In Hermiston, we are going to take over the lease of the outpatient office just across the street from the hospital, which is owned by the hospital. haven't signed that yet. But, so that will address that. Still working on Pendleton. I think there was a third question in there, Councilman.
No, just drug court outpatient.
Drug court
I guess that makes me want to ask City Manager Smith, the basement that we have, is that going to be for county or is that going to be for CCS?
I think we're moving into your new building
Oh,
next
cool.
year.
Oh.
We'll be neighbors.
Yeah. I think that agreement was signed by the county and CCS has agreed to honor that.
So then is CCS taking over all of A&D services, and will the counties not have any A&D services and it's all going to be CCS?
Correct. You'll still have your private providers in Hermiston, but the county will no longer be in the addictions business.
Okay.
You know, one question I'll follow up on, Councilor Barone hasn't asked yet, but I'm sure he's wondering. You mentioned demographics and the differences between different counties and populations. We obviously have a large Latino population in our county. How are you doing with staffing, with bilingual staffing and the services you provide in that format?
Well, we're accepting resumes and applications. We're doing okay. Could we do better? Absolutely. Yeah. There's not enough bilingual individuals to meet the demand. And we are putting some things in place. I think that we're ahead of the curve because there is a big exodus in behavioral health, as in many industries, you know, with the fallout from COVID. So we have a number of things in place to retain our best assets, which are our employees. But we have focused upon the bilingual employees, putting in retention incentives to keep them. That's part of your question. I think if I might extrapolate a bit farther, it's how are we doing in treatment? Are our services culturally sensitive? Are they appropriate? And we have undergone a number of things working with the University of Cincinnati, which is really big in DEI. We're 100%, we just overhauled our curriculum. And so you've got my family here tonight because there's fast food and my Jeep's got to get worked on. So this is my 10-year-old Catherine and my 23-year-old Kaylin. She works for Community Counseling Solutions as a clinician. So not that you want her to speak to it, but the 100% overhaul in the addictions curriculum has occurred. And just continuing to work through that as all of us really, you know, work hard to be more thoughtful on so many different levels about what culturally appropriate treatment looks like. You want to add anything? You're welcome to come by, or we'd be happy to bring the curriculum by that we're using for the addictions work. And we want to, you know, we're transparent. So if any of you ever wanted to come and spend some time with us at the office in Hermiston and provide any feedback or sit in on any of the work that we do, we would welcome that. Please.
Other questions? Yes.
I do some work with low-income individuals, and one of the things that I've seen, at least from Lifeways, was they had a difficult time bringing mental health providers into the area and maintaining them here. What kind of plans do you have to keep people here so that there's a continuity of care for individuals?
It's hard for me to answer this question without feeling like I might be saying something negative to the current provider. So just when I pause, I just want to let you know it's not because I have a long latency in my speech. It's just trying to be very thoughtful about that. As Nina, who is our HR director, likes to say, cash is king. And so to that end, just pay is very important, what you pay people. And there's a not an insignificant difference, that's a positive way to say it, between what CCS pays and what the current provider pays clinicians. This is a fact. This video recorded. So there was a clinician that we spoke to that was licensed that was making $55,000. So an LCSW or an LPC, LMFT, $55,000. A person with 15 to 25 years of experience that's licensed at CCS is going to make about $75,000 to $80,000. So that will account for some turnover. Our benefits are very good. Now, we don't have PERS. We're not at the county or government level for that, but we pay 90% of the cost of the insurance for the employee and the family. That's just one example of many where we are in the 10th percentile for how we treat our employees in terms of benefits. I could go on. We have, like, for bereavement, we just addressed that policy. I was reading about American Express. American Express gives their employees 15 days of paid leave when a member of their immediate family dies. 15 days. We don't even want to see you. Just don't come back. 10 days for the next layer, if it's like an onion, and then 5 days after that. And I thought, wow, wouldn't that be great? And I thought, well, why can't CCS be American Express? What precludes us from that? So I asked the board, and they said yes. So those kind of benefits are across the board. I'm not going to say that we're A+, but I think, Counselor, those are the things that set us apart a little bit from some other community mental health programs, is how we show value to the employees. Yeah, I could go on. We have a nice family culture. We also do recruitment and retention incentives. If you're with us for 3 years, you can choose which path, but you can get a check for $1,500. That'll likely change to $3,000. Or you could choose the 7-year, 15 days, additional 15 days of paid vacation. Those are just a few examples. Now, are we rolling in cash? No, I don't want to give you the wrong impression, but we all know how much it costs to train people continually. So we're just making that investment on the front end every day, week, and month to avoid it on the back end with advertising and turnover and all of the issues that come from that. We will still have turnover, but it won't be to the same degree that I believe you're used to experiencing it. And I can say that just because I see what happens in Morrow, Wheeler, Gillum, and Grant. So that's the history. There will be, though, some people that aren't going to like working for CCS. We have a different philosophy, and there are some current employees that are going to struggle with how we approach care and treatment of the people that we serve. So it will be a little bumpy. Did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have psychiatry on board?
I can just be a little bit of a smart ass. Do you want some consultation, Dr. Jotzman?
Well, I could probably use some. You ask my wife. I could use a lot of help, actually.
We do. I actually feel that we have I feel that right now we have the best child psychiatrist in the state with Dr. Cara Pattinson. She's amazing. And we have Mohammed Ba. I could go on about him. And we will be picking up many of the existing providers that are working in Umatilla County for Lifeways now. So yes, we have that. Sometimes we get asked, will we provide consultation time to hospitals and emergency rooms? And we do that. Currently, are we doing it as much as what others would like? Probably not. And that question came up recently with Good Shepherd. Would we be willing to provide additional consult time for folks that have been in the emergency room for the last couple of days? And that's what Dr. Pattinson and I spoke about on my drive from Hermiston to Pendleton this afternoon. Just looking at ways that we can support the community's needs.
Great.
Does that answer that question?
Yeah. You know, I think you guys can probably, you don't know her as well as I do, but you can probably understand the sense of why I'm so excited about community counseling solutions coming to our community. Just the openness, the transparency, the ability to communicate, you know, and sharing your story. And I think those are the kind of relationships we're looking forward to. And I know, you know, the public safety officers are looking forward to working with in our hospital community and our healthcare providers. And it's just a warm, fresh breath of air. I mean, it's just so enlightening to have that sort of feeling and excitement about the mental health that we can provide to our community. So I appreciate your willingness to come this evening and speak.
Thank you.
To your question about how often, I mean, once a year maybe, unless there's a
Okay.
problem, you know?
All right.
You know? Chief, I mean, is that fair, or do you feel like that's too often, or?
He committed to meet with me monthly, so he's kind of
Yeah.
every couple months.
I'm
But
sure he probably
anyways,
welcomes
he's-
that opportunity, actually, so.
All right, so next August, put it on my agenda to get back in touch with
Give us an
you
update,
all.
yeah.
And if there is something that comes up prior, I will come back and check in with you. Thank you for that. Thanks for being so welcoming.
Yeah. Well, thanks for bringing your
About
family with
half
us,
the
too.
fam, I have 4 kiddos.
Thanks for your spending your dollars in our community, too, tonight.
Yeah, thank you.
Have a safe trip home. All right, we're going to move on to the rest of our agenda now. We're at the opportunity for citizen input on non-agenda items. So if there are individuals, Karen, that would like to speak. No. Okay, not today. All right, so consent agenda items A through B, anything that we need to remove? Seeing none. Any public comment on the consent agenda items? Can I get a motion to approve consent agenda items A through B?
So moved. Second.
Been moved by Councilor Primer, seconded by Councilor Davis, that we approve consent agenda items A and B. Roll call.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. There were no items removed. On to ordinances and remonstrances. Ordinance number 2327, an ordinance amending Chapter 110 of the Hermiston Municipal Code entitled Airport Commercial Business. Mr. Smith?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, as we continue to look at our ordinances, this is airport commercial businesses, and it needed to be updated. 1977 was when it was written, so I'm pretty sure the requirements by the FAA and other agencies might have changed a little bit since then. So it looks like a lot changed, because there's a lot of updated language. But it really is reflecting our current practices and the current regulations that we operate under out at the airport. So I know Mr. Morgan presented it to the airport board last week, and so we're recommending approval as presented.
Any other public comment on ordinance number 2327? Okay, Mayor requests first reading of the ordinance be read by title only and calls for roll call. Roll call.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Mr. Luisi?
The first reading of ordinance number 2327 by only reading the title. An ordinance amending Chapter 110 of the Hermiston Municipal Code entitled Airport Commercial Business. Mr. Mayor.
Mayor requests that the ordinance be put on for final adoption at this meeting and that the second reading be by title only and calls for a roll call. Roll call.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Mr. Luisi.
The second and final reading of ordinance number 2327 by only reading the title as follows. An ordinance amending Chapter 110 of the Hermiston Municipal Code entitled Airport Commercial Business. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Can I get a motion that ordinance number 2327 be adopted and become effective 30 days after adoption by the City Council?
So moved.
Second.
Been moved by Councilor Davis, seconded by Councilor Primer, that ordinance number 2327 be adopted and become effective 30 days after adoption. Roll call.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. No other business tonight. Committee reports. Anybody have a committee report? Nope. None. Wow, we're getting through this.
Summertime.
It's summertime, we're not meeting. I think a lot of the committees are starting to turn back up again, so make sure you're looking at your calendars. I know that EOTech is coming up with a meeting, and no, they're not till October, are they? Yeah. So please keep looking at your calendars. Mayor's report, just a couple things. Hopefully you all have your city manager evaluations turned in today. Not yet. Okay, was due today. Mr. Spicer-Coon?
I did mine.
My login wouldn't work. I
All
tried all
right,
weekend.
all right. Well, let's get them in. They're due today, so I expect you got till midnight tonight to get them done.
Lily will be back tomorrow. She can fix it.
Yeah, well, hopefully Lily's back tomorrow. I understand she's out sick. We hope she's doing well. Do we have trail recommendations? Umatilla, the River Trail, would turn in recommendations in the county?
I think we have, I'll have to double check with Larry on
Okay.
if he was
there any
the
councilors
Parks and
that
Rec
wanted-
committee member,
Okay.
was he was looking for.
Were there any counselors that really had a passion to sit on that? Okay. Just was going to comment about the EO Summit. Just heard tonight from Daniel that it's been delayed because it was a indoor public summit, and it's been pushed back till October 7th and 8th at the Hermiston School District. That was coming up here in a couple weeks. Hopefully you've all taken the opportunity to sign up for the LOC conference. For those of you that can attend, hopefully you've communicated that with Lily, and we got rooms. Good. Thank you, Heather. Kind of got some big events going on this week. So, Umatilla County Fair and Rodeo. Hopefully you guys will all get a chance to go out there. The community will go out there and support them. Having last year off was tough on those folks. So going back out and supporting them this year, I think is extremely critical and important. So hopefully the community is ready to turn out for that. I understand the parade was well attended. Thank you to the council and the city for going to the parade. I apologize that I wasn't able to make it, but I understand it was pretty well attended. So community is ready to turn out and celebrate, to be a little bit more open.
I think it was well sugared.
Yeah.
Well, sugar.
Well, yes, it
Plenty
was.
candy went around, huh?
Yeah. We threw a lot of candy.
So we have that coming up. The Melon Fest is coming up on the 21st. We have the, what are they calling it? The City Fest is coming up on the 28th. So a lot of big events over the course of the next 3 weeks. So community will have plenty of opportunity to get out and participate and engage in Hermiston. Just as a reminder, we are still on the rise with COVID cases. So please, if you haven't been vaccinated, get your vaccination. If you do go out in public, just be prepared that, you might want to wear a mask because it's pretty rampant out there and you're at risk of catching the infection. And so I would encourage you to continue to mask up if you want to stay safe, or get the vaccination. Council reports. Any counselors this evening? Let the senior counselor go first. Mr. Harden.
Just a note, you mentioned something about City Fest also on Thursday, the 26th, from 12 to 1, is the Civic Leaders, which you are.
Luncheon.
luncheon from 12 to 1, and Senator Bill Hansel will be one of the speakers at that. So if you would like to be a part, let us know so we can get you. It's going to be right here
Community Center.
in the community center. So that's Thursday the 26th. And also any of the staff that would be able to break loose, you know, that are definitely leaders in this community. Okay.
Absolutely.
So it's open. So, but we just need to know how many would be willing to participate in it. So.
Okay, so they should get that to you?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you have anything
Or
else?
Phil Hom is another one. Okay.
Yeah.
You've probably been harassed by him already. So.
Already committed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Check in with Phil.
One other thing I forgot to mention, I wrote it on this piece of paper, maybe Chief wants to speak to it, but there's a Randy Studebaker benefit dinner, concert, and auction Saturday, August 21st at 6 p.m., shoot 8 at EOTech. It's a fundraiser for one of your fellow boys in blue going through a struggle with the health. And so if the community can turn out for that, it is a 21 and over event, I believe, Chief? Yeah. Beer and wine will be served by Neighbor Dudes Tap House. There's a tri-tip dinner by Tom Spoo and Tim Myers. Entertainment by Zach Grooms and Friend, and a live auction by Ford Bonnie. So if you can't participate at that event on August 21st, there are some ways to go online and donate as well. They have set up a website, teamstudetbaker.com. Again, teamstudetbaker.com. Sorry, I forgot about that one. Any others? I saw Mr. Barone, you had your hand up.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I actually wanted to have a conversation with council regarding the upcoming events that are coming up this month. And so, as we mentioned already earlier, we have 3 big events that the community is really excited for. However, I do have concerns with where our COVID cases are right now, hospitalization rates right now, and how we're going to end up at the end of this. Truth be told, my biggest concern is the state having to step in once more. If they have to step in once more because our COVID cases rise too high, I'm worried that maybe school won't go as planned. As of right now, we have kids in classes with masks, and that's not ideal. However, I would take that rather than any other alternative. And so I really wanted to just open this conversation up with council. Again, is it a popular thing to do? Probably not. But is it the responsible and the right thing to do? I believe so. And so that's why I just wanted to open a discussion up with council to entertain possible preventative measures for this upcoming month. And so the thought I had in my head was potentially wearing masks for the remainder of the month until these events are done. Again, my concern is being able to return to school in the fall, and with the hospitalization rates where we have them right now, my concern is that, yes, we have a lot of visitors coming into town, but ultimately, if there's anything that is to be suffered, it will be the community. It might be businesses that might have to shutter. It might be people that might not be able to get to the hospital, or it might be kids not being able to go back to school. So I understand at this point where we are right now, the state has turned it over to local control. And so my worry again is that if we don't keep this under control, we're going to reach a point to where the state has to step in once more. And so I just wanted to voice these concerns in front of council. Again, is it popular? I don't think so. But I believe it's the right thing to do, or it's the right discussion to have. And so I just really, again, wanted to open it up and see if anybody had any thoughts about how to move forward with protecting our community.
Any comments?
Well,
Is that a yes?
I do.
Okay.
I think it's, I hesitate to mandate anything to our constituents. You know, it's a personal choice, what they do, how they do it. To tell them that what they need to do in that respect is, in my opinion, infringement upon their rights as opposed to what, we should be able to make our own decisions. We're all supposed to be grown-ups, so we should be able to do what we think is the right thing for ourselves. So,
Anyone else?
I think it's more of a county issue, not a city issue. I would hope that, I think we're overstepping if we try to
Okay.
use that.
Yes, Ms. Meyer?
While I think it's a good idea, how would you be able to pull that off? There is no way. Who's going to enforce it?
I applaud Councilor Barone's fortitude for standing up and making that comment. I know you do it out of goodwill and wanting to protect people and be safe and protect our kids and keep our businesses and classrooms open. We've been over this a year. I think people understand now how the disease is transmitted. And we don't know it all for sure about where this came from or where it's going and how it's going to continue to evolve. But we have learned some things along the way that can protect people and help people be more safe. And getting the vaccination has definitely been beneficial. Wearing a mask has been beneficial. But I tend to agree with Councilor Primer that, we all have personal accountability and ownership in the decisions that we make. And when we go out in public and we do so with disregard to our own public personal health, then that individual takes ownership in that responsibility. And so at this point, trying to mandate or force people to do something, I think would not be received really well. And I agree with Ms. Myers, the enforcement would be extremely burdensome to whoever we decide to require that. So it's not something that I would be in support of at this point.
And I understand. Again, that's why I wanted to just open that conversation with council. Didn't think that was going to be something that was popular whatsoever, but again, I understand the personal rights. I completely am understanding in favor of that. But however, when you're taking actions that are going to hurt other people because of the spread of the virus, honestly, I'm not very concerned about myself. I feel like I'm going to be fine. I think many people that choose not to get vaccinated or choose not to wear a mask think the same thing. However, it's looking after your fellow American, your fellow Hermistonian. It's not being selfish, honestly. And so understand this would be a move that would be really hard for the council, and I understand citizens would be upset. But again, the enforcement would be difficult. I don't think it'd be something popular. I don't think something the chief would want to do either. But I don't think, just like everybody here on council, I don't think we'd have officers going to fine people or arrest people or anything like that. But an ordinance would definitely push people more to do it. It's just like in the classroom. If I give a student an option to do something, they're probably not going to do it. But if it's mandatory, then more than likely they'll do it. Some of them might be upset in the process, but will it be for the greater good? I think so. But I thank the council for their input and for entertaining the thought.
I think it speaks to the seriousness of where we are as a community and the concern that we should all have about the disease, and again, speaking about those least among us that can hardly afford another infection on top of issues that they may already have, and some people that are perfectly healthy that have gotten sick and passed away. But the more people that get it, the greater our chances of losing more of our community members. And so I think it's a great conversation to have. I appreciate your strength for bringing it up tonight. But I don't see that there's a lot of motivation from the council to want to mandate anything. Is that fairly accurate? Did you have anything else you want to talk about this evening?
No.
Okay.
That's about it.
Other councilors, other council comments? Yes, Ms. Vice Chair?
one thing I wanted to bring up. I've been taking my kids to swimming lessons the last few days, or last couple of weeks, actually. And one thing I've noticed is there's a few issues of repair that are needed around the swimming pool. It seems that there's no showers that are working in the girls' restroom. There's only one that's working in the boys' restroom. And in the family restrooms, one of them shoots out scalding hot water. I think those are some issues that we probably should work on. It's kind of a big, popular area. Lots of people come there, and at this time, and it's kind of a health and safety issue. I mean, that's the reason the showers are there. I'd like to see if we could get a look on that. I don't like to be the person always complaining, but I would like to see it. To Councilor Barone's point, I think it's important, though, that we do continue to advocate to have people mask up when they go around. If we're not going to mandate it, I think it's important that we still advocate it and use our position here to encourage people to put masks on and get vaccinated. I mean, those are the two things that we know that help stop the spread of this disease, and the numbers are going up. And so I am happy that he brought it up tonight.
Smith, do you know anything about the pool?
Well, that's kind of a broad question, but
Yeah.
I don't know anything about those issues with
Okay.
the pool.
But you'll look into
I
it.
will follow up and
Okay.
we'll work on it.
All right, perfect. Thank you. I'm sure it's been a very busy summer with people wanting to get out, and it's been so dang hot, and getting access to the pool has been challenging, I'm sure. Other comments, Council? No? Mr. Smith?
Yes, I just have 3 items I want to talk about briefly. I hope while you were either coming or going to the tour this evening that you looked over at the South Hermiston Industrial Park. The Meyer Distributing Building is kind of almost half up, I think. They've been working very rapidly, tilting up those concrete walls, so that's moving forward. There's another building going up, A1 Industrial is building a new warehouse, and then all of the infrastructure work is starting. Our contractor has been working on the streets, and and then starting to get prepared to put the pipes in the ground. So that area is very busy, and it was interesting to talk with our hosts tonight about water usage. We didn't anticipate. We thought they were going to use less water than Hermiston Foods, but that's not been so much the case. And so we're worried with all this construction and having to, keep the ground wet and so forth. So we're a little nervous making sure we can have enough water up there for this time. But it's exciting. There's a lot of good things going there. Other construction, City Hall, they backfilled the Gladys Street wall today. And they've also been constructing the elevator shaft, so starting to see some things shape up, and you can recognize what it's going to look like, and so that's exciting. And then the final thing, I don't know, I haven't really heard from any of you that you've heard about this, but it's been going around the community. Our Annex Pool over on Southwest 7th Street, some sort of a drainage pond that's coming in the street, and just wanted to give you an update. We are aware, we're working on it, and in fact we were pumping out the area, trying to clear out some water, pulled out some debris that may have plugged the pipe and causing some of it. We don't know. We're going to be watching it again to see if that's the problem. We anticipate we'll still have to go in after irrigation season's over and do some more pipe work to try to address that. We did some of it a couple years ago. The puddle was a little further to the north then, but now we still need to address that. So we are aware, but we can't do the work as well during this prime irrigation season. So we'll address it as soon as we can. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions about those items.
The city parking lot across from City Hall, almost complete, looks really nice.
Right there. Now we have a few punch list items, but it's been used. I think I know the businesses are happy to see it open again. So
No, it looks really good.
somewhere up there that they can install a swale to possibly mitigate that?
Well, what our plan is to get it into our piping system for drainage water. And so it's overwhelming it right now. We need to extend the pipe, and we need to make the pipe deeper so that it can pick up the water that's coming out of the field. And this is the second time since I've been here that it's been a problem. And so I think that depends on the crop that's in the field, and certain crops make it worse than others. And so it's just another, we hope this will be more of a permanent solution, but we'll have to see how that functions once we get the new pipe in.
Have we had discussions with the farmer whose field that is to let them know that that much of their water is leaving their field? I mean, water is a pretty scarce resource, and to have that much water leaving your field, I think it would be something that they'd either like to be brought to their attention so they can manage or work on.
Well, I mean, it's leaving their field after it's watered the crop. I mean, so from their perspective, I mean, we can have a conversation with them, but I don't think I think they're watering the crop at the level they think they need to. And it's going into the ground and then going underground to where it's causing a problem for us. It's not coming across the ground. So from their standpoint, they're getting the use out of the water. It's just the way, whatever the underground rock structure and all of that is, it just brings that groundwater in that direction. So.
All right, anything else? No. Okay, we do have an executive session scheduled for this evening. The executive session is held pursuant to ORS 192-6602E, which allows the council to meet in executive session to conduct deliberations with persons designated by the council to negotiate real property transactions. The executive session is held, yes, I said that. Representatives of news media and designated staff shall be allowed to attend the executive session. All of the members of the audience are excluded. Representatives of the news media are specifically directed to not report on any of the deliberations during the executive session except to state the general subject of the session as previously announced. No final decision may be made in executive session. At the end of the executive session, the council will return to open session with the audience may attend. The executive session will last approximately 15 minutes. We are in recess. All right, we're going to call or reconvene our city council meeting back to order. It's okay, you don't need to sit down. And Mr. Smith, do we have anything else for the good of the order? Council, anything else? We're adjourned.